Hello, folks. My name is Dustin Cormier. This is another episode of How to Rock Astrology. We're going to be continuing our reading of The True Story of the Nakshatra Gods by Vic Dicara. This comes from his Nakshatra, the Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology. We are in our section talking about the Hindu Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. In our last episode, we explained what their relation is to the whole nakshatra system. We've already explained what Brahma is all about. Now we are going to explain what exactly is the nature of the force or consciousness that we call Rudra, which represents the symbol of Shiva and everything Shiva intones and implies. The character of Rudra and Shiva are the patron deities of three nakshatras, Ardra, Mula, and the Bhadrapadas, which is actually four, I should say, because we know there's an Uttara and a Purva Bhadrapada. So we're going to be continuing our story. This is Rudra as given in the nakshatras according to Vic Dicara. Most of the gods are absorbed in sensual merriment and bless humanity to enjoy similar prosperity. Rudra, however, is quite different. He lives in crematoriums without even a roof over his head, surrounded by ghosts and ghouls, dressed in bark and animal skins, smeared in creation ash, with uncut, uncombed hair. He is entirely disinterested in sensual merriment because he is enthralled in far superior internal bliss. His blessings cause humans to lose interest in superficial, ephemeral pleasures in order to turn towards deeper, more substantial joys in the heart. All four of his nakshatra, Ardra, Mula, and the two Bhadrapada, are marked by this disinterest in conventional life and an attraction to deeper and more profound things. The Rudra seems to have two very different faces. Seen from the superficial perspective, he appears terrifying and destructive. Seen from the deeper perspective, Rudra appears peaceful and benevolent. He first appeared in this world as a ferocious, howling, purple, androgyne child, personifying the anger and frustration Brahma experienced in his initial failed attempts at creation. Brahma had tried to contain his anger between his eyebrows, but ultimately failed, and it leapt forth from his forehead in the form of Rudra. On Brahma's request, the original androgyne Rudra became 11 male and female forms, and produced many children, becoming the fountainhead of an entire class of fearsome, monstrous divinities that flourished in the early universe and threatened to destroy it. Troubled by the proliferation of destructive forces, Brahma petitioned Rudra, "Please control your anger and your offspring. Anger and destruction is useful at the right time and place, but if uncontrolled, it will destroy everything." "How can I, the very personification of your anger, ever become peaceful?" Rudra asked incredulously. "Well," Brahma said, "you can learn to control your feelings." "How could that be possible?" Rudra asked. Brahma advised through yoga. Thus, Rudra went into seclusion at the top of a mountain and perfected the science of yogic meditation, becoming the original yogi, perfectly peaceful, self-controlled, and happy. When he returned from his meditation on the mountaintop, a delighted Brahma awarded him the name Shiva, which means calm and benevolent. Among all the children and expansions of Rudra and Rudrani, the exalted dragon named Ananta Shesha is especially important. This is the form of Rudra who dwells in the Bhadrapada nakshatra, renouncing his luxurious throne as king of the Ashlesha dragons to live in the solitude of a place symbolized as a crematorium altar. This shows that Ananta Shesha, like Rudra himself, is entirely disinterested in temporary wealth and interested only in what is real, eternal, and truly auspicious, which is the meaning of the word Bhadrapada. That's truly auspicious. And I believe that Vic is also intoning, I don't know for sure, but this word Bhadrapada might also, its truly auspiciousness might relate with the fact that it is real and eternal in the cosmic sense. Also, exactly like Rudra himself, Ananta Shesha manifests two distinct forms in the two Bhadrapada nakshatra. One ferociously destructive, the other peacefully beneficent. In Purva Bhadrapada, Ananta Shesha manifests as Ajjaikapat, the ferocious fire-breathing dragon who reduces the universe to ash. In Uttara Bhadrapada, he manifests as Ahirbudnya, the peaceful water-dwelling dragon who holds up the world and keeps it intact. That's Uttara Bhadrapada, manifests as Ahirbudnya, the peaceful water-dwelling dragon who holds up the world and keeps it intact. Ajjaikapat, who is often depicted as storm clouds, acts like a hurricane or an inferno, passionately and ferociously tearing through non-eternal experiences in an intense search for the meaning of true wealth. On the other hand, Ahirbudnya, that would be the name, Ahirbudnya, who is often depicted as rain clouds, is usually quite calm and simply shows no interest in temporary, ephemeral things. Being a Rudra, Ahirbudnya can also display ferocious anger at times, but his fundamental characteristic is detached, distant, and calm. Now, the male and female form of Rudra have their homes on the opposite sides of the sky. Rudra in Ardra, Rudrani in Mula. Their profound disinterest in conventional pleasures is profoundly illustrated by their clash with the archetype materialist, Daksha. Daksha was the sexual powerhouse of the gods, the progenitor extraordinaire, profusely enjoying all the beauty and luxury that surrounds and enhances sex. Rudrani incarnated as his 13th daughter, Sati. She grew up wanting to marry no one but Shiva. Her father, Daksha, was, of course, vehemently opposed to the idea. How could a delicate, lovely, super-qualified princess like Sati be wed to a homeless cave dweller surrounded by goblins? He thought, that being Rudra, Shiva. But Sati persisted and married Shiva against her father's advice. After marriage, Sati was exceedingly blissful, coming in touch with spiritual reality and spiritual bliss as a result of mastering yogic meditation under Shiva's guidance. She and her ascetic husband lived in utter joy, without the slightest need for a roof over their head or a penny in their pockets. Daksha, however, was blind to their inner happiness. All he could see was their lack of material prosperity, and he hated Shiva. Because of him, my beloved daughter lives in squalor, disarray, and uncivilized indignity. On one occasion, Shiva and Daksha both attended the same function. When Daksha arrived, everybody rose to pay respect. Everyone except Shiva, who was seated in meditation with his eyes closed. Daksha was furious and insulted. Storming out of the assembly, in a huff, he shouted, "You claim to have married my daughter, but this is a lie. You kidnapped her. If you had really married her, you would consider yourself my son-in-law and would show some respect." Shiva did not retaliate at all, though his followers exchanged insults and curses with Daksha's retinue. Daksha was renowned as the most expert enjoyer of life. No one could execute Vedic ceremonies as flawlessly as he, and thus no one could reap the results of such enjoyable karma. In the course of expanding his opulence and glory, Daksha performed the most elaborate possible series of rituals ever imagined. For the final ceremony, he staged an enormous, grand festival. Sati, his daughter, had heard about it, and she wanted to attend to see her beloved sisters and mother. Shiva advised her against it, knowing Daksha had disowned her for remaining married to a person he considered an enemy. Sati, however, couldn't fathom the hardness and shallowness of her father's heart, and so she attended the festival anyway. As soon as she arrived, she was mortified by the extreme disrespect her father showed her husband and his own daughter. She publicly berated Daksha in front of the entire festival, calling him a fool with an infantile and shallow concept of wealth and happiness. Seeing absolutely no remorse from him, she then made a terrible proclamation. "The fact that I am your daughter is an insult to my flawless husband, Shiva. I cannot for another day tolerate having a body that is connected to a creature as foul and wretched as you. Watch now as your own daughter commits suicide before your very eyes, in the middle of your grand and pompous festival." Daksha was so deeply submerged in his indignation that even these words from his once beloved youngest daughter did not move him. He said nothing as Sati sat before him and, with her yogic power alone, instantaneously obliterated her body in a flash of mystical fire. This tale illustrates the fact that Rudra and Rudrani are at odds with normal, conventional conceptions of wealth, pleasure, and happiness. They find it very difficult to integrate with superficial society and show an extreme preference for being left alone to tend to their internal pursuits rather than becoming absorbed in the meaningless externals of the real world, quote unquote. Conventional, materialistic eyes see Rudra as a destroyer, an awful, terrible, destructive force like an earthquake or a hurricane. The deeper truth, however, is that Rudra and Rudrani can reach beauty and wonder at a level that is too deep for the dakshas of this world to perceive. The form of Rudrani, who dwells in Mula Nakshatra, is especially known as Nirti, a Rudrani born from the churned ocean of milk. She is also known as Alakshmi, luckless, the older sister of Lakshmi, which is luck. So Lakshmi is luck. So Alakshmi, we know that the prefix A often negates something. So Alakshmi, Rudrani is Alakshmi, unlucky, luckless. Lucklessness comes before luck. That is, Rudrani comes before Lakshmi. Since lucklessness comes before luck, this illustrates that we must first destroy our fascination and our infatuation with illusory, superficial fortune, Alakshmi, and only then can we achieve true fortune and thus attain true Lakshmi. Very psychedelic. Great imagery. Lakshmi and her sister have an affectionate relationship. Alakshmi takes the form of an owl and always stays on Lakshmi's shoulder, frightening the weak-hearted and preventing them from approaching her beautiful sister. This too illustrates that good fortune comes only when we have the fortitude to face the things that we must overcome and destroy. Beautiful. Very philosophical and spiritual, and very informative of these 4 nakshatras, which are ruled by the character of Rudra. I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is our second last episode, and now in the next we are going to be reading our final episode from this series, talking about the true story of the Nakshatra Gods. Can't wait to see you. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. See you guys on the next one.